What is going on, everybody, and welcome to the Thursday edition of the Stokastic NHL Strategy Show. I am your host, Josh Harris. We had 6 games. I think it was, I don't even remember. It was 6 games last night. We have 8 games tonight. No Colorado. No Tampa. Mikko Rantanen still out. Leon Draisaitl still out. Edmonton is on the slate, so it's not as big of a heavy hitter slate as it could be, which is nice. You don't have to make a decision between spending half your salary on the Avs or playing 2 mid-range lines. Yes, the Avs dud was brutal last night. It's just the way it goes. The Avs are what, 0-6 in shootouts? McKinnon, not a fan of shootouts. But, yeah, I think you needed Washington for sure, Clayton Keller for sure. You could have done some stuff with the Dvorak line as well. You made not to pour some salt in some open wounds, but you made a pretty rough swap right before lock. That's the way it goes sometimes. You only remember the bad ones. You don't remember the good ones, but
true.
What happened?
Yeah, no, I had a double center of Justice Sordiff and Dylan Strome with Tom Wilson. Wilson didn't do a whole lot, but obviously Strome had the 3-point night, and then 20 minutes before lock, I swapped off Strome, paid down at one defense, paid down at my one-off winger when a 3-2-1 build, so I could pay up for Cale Makar. And it was basically like a 20-point swing, which took me from about 30x to about 3x. Definitely not what you want, but green is green. We take those. We were watching the highlights from Leafs Red Wings last night, that play by Sider in overtime to chase down Easton Cowan, push him to the ice, take the puck, pass it to Larkin, and then run over Jake McCabe was just absolutely crazy. That guy, I don't know if he's going to win, but that guy might be the best defenseman in the NHL this season. He's certainly in the top 3 for Norris conversation. He's just a full-on monster now. Poor Garnet Hathaway, not quite a Patrick Steffen with the empty net, but he had the puck with the empty net about 30 feet away, got stripped from him from behind. Utah goes down, ties the game, and then wins it in overtime after the Flyers blew a 3-0 lead. Not what you want if you're the Flyers and chasing down a playoff spot. But, yeah, Clayton Keller had a big night, 3 points with the shot bonus. Saw him in all the lineups at the top. You probably needed him. Dylan Strome obviously had a big night. Lucas Dostal. I mean, listen, we talked about it like a week ago. Anaheim's save percentage over like a 15-game stretch was like .830. Like it was just one of those things where it was an abysmal month-long stretch and it wasn't going to keep going. And then, you just kind of look at what Anaheim has done recently. Obviously Dostal had the big game last night, but 2-1 win, 5-3 win, 2-1, 3-2, 3-1. Like, they've stopped giving up goals. Probably time to adjust the expectations about what the Ducks are.
Yeah, with Leo Carlson out too. So Carlson and Terry out. That's kind of weird, but that's the way it goes sometimes. 8 games here tonight. Couple massive home totals. Not great power play spots for either of them. So this is a pretty wide open slate. I'm sure I haven't looked at Nashville's ownership yet, but I'm sure it's not going to be great. But let's get into the slate here. Before we do, as always, we do have a promo code for you guys since our affiliate link is still being worked on. Promo code PuckLuck will get you 15% off any subscription. Got UFC pay-per-view this weekend. Hockey, obviously. NBA in full swing. Golf is back. NFL championship weekend, so plenty of options there. Just check out stokastic.com/pricing. Put in the promo code PuckLuck at checkout, and you'll be on your way. We'll talk about Minnesota here. They could be getting some reinforcements back as well, so that might dampen the ownership and the lines, honestly. So we'll talk about it when we get there. But we're going to start with the Dallas Stars heading with a 3.3 total. Heading into Columbus, the Blue Jackets have a 3.1. Rick Bowness, a clown. 2 things going for him, though. Mason Marchment is back, which means he moved Cole Sillinger off the top line, and Elvis Merzlikins got hurt in the last game, which means he has to actually start the better goalie in Jet Greaves. So good for us. The Blue Jackets are going Fantilli, Marchenko, Marchment, Coyle, Sillinger, Olivier, Monahan, Jenner, Johnson, with Rantanen probably still out. No, he's confirmed.
No, he's out. He's not even with the team.
Yeah. They're going to run back Hintz, Robertson, Bork, Steele, Duchesne, Johnston, which is weird because, like, didn't Ritzkovian have a monster game with Duchesne and Johnston?
I mean, yeah, goal, 2 assists against Boston. You still do need talent on the third lines. You know what I mean? Like, Dallas doesn't really have a whole lot in their bottom 6. They got to try to spread the wealth a little bit.
That is true. Interestingly enough, I mean, it is interesting and it's good for us actually, because at home, Bonus the Clown sends out Coyle, Olivier, and Sillinger out against top comp. Like Olivier and Coyle have played a absolute truckload of minutes together. They're about league average defensively. Sillinger honestly might help there a little bit, but they're probably going to see I don't know if it's going to be Hintz, Robertson, Bork, or Duchesne, Johnston, Steele. I don't know who
it's going to be Robertson and Hintz.
Yeah, that's what I assumed as well. I mean, it doesn't really matter which line they go out. What's important for me is with Coyle going out against their top line, they're going to go out against the Esa Lindell Heiskanen pairing a bunch, which frees up Fantilli, Marchenko, Marchment to go against the depth pairs like Harley and Lundqvist, Lyubushkin, Petrovic are fine, but it's a big change from, Heiskanen and Lindell being elite to at best being league average. So Columbus 1 is definitely in play for me at 17,400 in a 95-minute sample before Marchment got hurt. They were excellent together. Marchment's a massive offensive upgrade from Cole Sillinger, even if Mason Marchment on a cup-winning team would probably be a second liner at best, more likely a third liner, but Cole Sillinger offensive upside isn't very high. So, they're fully correlated. They'll see the second and third lines, the second and third pairs. Now it is Casey DeSmith, who honestly is their best goalie, and it isn't a great power play spot, but for 17,400 for a fully correlated line, I'm fine with it. It's a much bigger upgrade than Sillinger. If you're not too concerned about the power play correlation, which I'm not either, honestly, I don't have an issue with Monahan, Jenner, Johnson at 12K. Their defensive numbers have slid. Their offensive possession numbers have slid, but they are still pretty good together. They're 12K. They'll see the bottom 6 of Dallas, and with how they're banged up, like it's a pretty advantageous matchup there. So, I think my favorite thing on Columbus is the top line, but where it's not a great power play matchup, and if you want to save 5,000, I have no problem going to Monahan, Jenner, Johnson. On the Dallas side, it would be some sort of power play stack. I think going like Hintz, Robertson, Duchesne, really, actually, I'd probably go Duchesne, Johnston, Robertson. It doesn't really matter. The first person, as Cliffy likes to put in, is Wyatt Johnson. I tend to agree there. I build around Johnson, Robertson. If you want to go cheaper, you go Duchesne. You want to go more expensive, you go Hintz. I don't really love adding Hintz. His shot volume is really low. So if I wanted to add a third, it'd probably be Duchesne. If I wanted to add a fourth, it would probably be Heiskanen. Once you get past that, there really isn't a great defensive line in Columbus. In fact, they're all at best league average. Their penalty kill is rough. So, Jet Greaves is obviously the better goalie, but this power play is elite. Even, listen, obviously without Rantanen, it's going to take a hit. It's still pretty good. I like a Dallas power play stack here. There really isn't a ton of ownership on Dallas. Like the full lines are coming in at 13.9 and 14.6%, which is like really not great considering the second line's top 2. But if you're going to do some sort of power play stack, you'll get a fairly unique combo with, maybe those guys will be like 10, 11, 12, 13% each, but the combo could be a bit lower. So it would be a Dallas power play stack for me in Columbus 1 and 3.
Yeah, I'll start on the Dallas side. Like straight up for me, it's Dallas 1 or bust. I'm not playing anything beyond that. I was looking at Wyatt Johnston's numbers this season at 5-on-5 when he doesn't have any of Robertson, Hintz, or Rantanen on the line with him. 120 minutes, 39 shot attempts for, 65 against. They're getting absolutely ran over. 3.2 expected goals against per 60. Like there's just no depth to Dallas, especially once you get those second and third defense pairs on the ice. So it's Dallas 1 or bust. I think I would just play Robertson, Hintz, Bork because one, like they've been pretty good together. I was looking at their last 20 games, which is coincides with Thomas Harley's return. 73 shot attempts, 3.7 expected goals, 3.9 actual goals per 60 minutes. Even Maverick Bork is skating like 15 plus minutes per game. The other night when they beat Boston 6-2, Dallas was up, I think it was 5-0 at the end of the second period, and Jason Robertson still played 19 minutes. Like if this game is anywhere close, Robertson's going to soar past 20 minutes. I imagine Hintz is going to be in the high teens, if not pushing over 20 as well. So 17,400 seems pretty reasonable for them. I'm not super concerned about power play correlation here. Like since December 1st, Dallas is drawing the fewest power play opportunities per game in the league. So if they get 1 or 2 power plays, like without Rantanen, like maybe they can get there. I don't know. Like, I think for me, it's more just stacking, just straight up stacking Dallas 1 and just leaving the rest be. So Robertson, Hintz, Bork for me. On the Columbus side, it is the top line. Because as you mentioned, they're probably going to get second and third line matchups. And like I said, the Dallas depth, I mean, there is no Dallas depth. They heavily rely on the top line. The top 2 lines, when Rantanen is healthy, but he's not there, obviously. So they don't have anything beyond the top line to worry about defensively. That Columbus top line, you mentioned how good they were with Marchment, 67 shot attempts, 3.1 expected goals for per 60 minutes. The Columbus power plays hit or miss. The Dallas penalty kill has been getting a little bit worse over the last 5 or 6 weeks, towards the bottom 10 of the league. So maybe they can take advantage of that here tonight. I don't mind going to the Columbus depth. If you need a filler, I would probably go to the Johnson line just because they'll also see depth matchups. But for me, I think this is a game about the top lines because I think Dallas 1 is going to get a ton of ice time here tonight. Shooting again, I wish it was Merzlikins starting. The shooting against Jet Greaves makes a big, big difference, especially when you're not drawing any power plays and you don't have Mikko Rantanen. So I prefer the Columbus side. Give me Marchenko, Fantilli, and Marchment in this game, but I think Dallas 1 is very playable here for me. It's both top lines in this game.
Vegas Golden Knights with a 3.2 total. Heading into Boston, the Bruins have a 2.9. Vegas going Eichel, Stone, Barbashev, Marner, Dorofeyev, Smith, Hurdle, Bowman, Kolasar. Bruins going Lindholm, Pasternak, Kuznetsov, Zaka, Middlestat, Arvidsson, Minton, Geeky, and Steve. Strangely enough, the highest owned line in this game is a Boston line, and it is Boston 1, Lindholm, Pasternak, Kuznetsov, with a 6% top 2, 6.7% projected ownership. And they're going to run into that Eichel-Stone matchup. So hasta la vista, I am out on them. Obviously, Boston 1 Pasternak is certainly fine here. This just really is not a great matchup for them here. Like, Vegas doesn't take a ton of penalties. All their lines have been good defensively. Rasmus Anderson isn't in the lineup tonight, but, that's not a huge deal. I guess, if anything, if you needed a filler, Zaka, Arvidsson, Middlestat at 10,200 would be where I would go. I'm just not super excited about Boston at all. Vegas is interesting because they're very expensive, right? Stone, Eichel, Barbashev is 21K, 9.4% top two, 1.1% projected ownership. They would be the pivot off Edmonton here tonight. Edmonton's 22,700. Vegas 1 is 21K. But if you want to go like Dorofeyev over Barbashev for power play, they become 23,200. Boston takes an absolute truckload of penalties. I think Korpisalo is starting tonight. That's going to be a super low-owned three-man in an elite power play spot with a great power play. So if you're looking for a pivot off of, McDavid here tonight, I'm looking no further than Vegas. You could leave Barbashev there if you want. I'm looking to add in more power play guys. The cheapest option would be Tomas Hertl for a double center stack at 23K, which is $300 more than Edmonton 1, coming in with like a tenth of the ownership. So it would be some sort of Vegas power play stack. I don't really want to play Boston.
Yeah, on the Boston side, the problem is like you mentioned, Vegas doesn't take penalties. 1.9 times shorthanded per game over the last 5 weeks. Like no other team in the league is below 2.1. Over the course of the season, they're under 2.4 times shorthanded per game. Like they just don't give up power play opportunities. So Boston has to get there, or is probably going to have to get there at 5-on-5, empty net, like that type of thing. And there are plenty of lines in that Boston price range, like the 15 to 18K range, let's call it. Like we just went over Dallas 1, Nashville's on the slate. We talked about Columbus. We'll get to Montreal in a second. So like there are a bunch of lines in that price range, like Boston 2 and Boston 3, like those fillers I think are okay. I don't know. I'm just not super excited on the Bruins here tonight. And mostly it's because it's like, this isn't a good matchup. The other is there are just other lines with similar top 2 stacks and similar ownership levels that I would rather play at every level for the Boston first, second, and third line. So I'm out on the Bruins, but this is a great power play matchup for Vegas. You mentioned all the penalties the Bruins take, most in the league over the last 5 weeks, most in the league over the course of the season. Third most power play goals against per game this season. Only Vancouver and Ottawa is worse. Over the last 5 weeks, 1 power play goal against per game. And obviously we know this Vegas power play is elite. So it is the Vegas power play guys that I do like, but it's just really expensive to get the Vegas power play guys in there, right? Like Eichel and Stone, just that 2-man alone is 17K. And then, whether you add in Dorofeyev or whether you add in, Mitch Marner or something like that, or Thomas Hertl, like all 3 of those guys are 6K and above. So there's no stack there's no power play. There's no 3-man power play stack from Vegas that'll be cheaper than 23,000. That's asking a lot. So like, I do think I would just start with Eichel and Stone. And if you just want to 2-man them, I think that's fine. If you want to just go with Barbashev, I think you can do that. But I think this is a spot where if I play Vegas, I try to get as many power play guys in as I can, because this might be the best power play spot in the league. It's certainly amongst like the top 3. So when you have a power play this good in this good of a power play spot, I think you do want to get in the power play guys. I always lean to Dorofeyev just because he is one of the trigger guys, then Hertl, then Marner. But I think you have to start with Eichel and Stone and just kind of go from there. I'm going to be honest, staring down the barrel of a $23,000 plus Vegas 3-man stack on the road against a Boston team that's really not that bad defensively, like you really are relying on like at least 1, if not 2 power play goals, might be one of those nights where I just kind of look for defensemen from this game and leave the forwards alone, because I even on an 8-game slate, that's kind of my limit for paying for super expensive lines. So it's the Vegas power play guys I like best in this game by a wide margin. It's just the fact that they're super expensive.
Yeah. And, Edmonton's at home with a much higher total against Pittsburgh. So Chicago Blackhawks, 2.3 total heading into Carolina. The Hurricanes have a 3.8. Looks like Frank Nazar is back for Chicago after taking a puck to the face last month. They're going Bedard, Green, Burakovsky, Nazar, Donato, Bertuzzi, Dickinson, Foligno, Mikheyev. That is former Leaf Nick Foligno. Carolina Hurricanes going Aho, Svechnikov, Jarvis, Stankoven, Hall, Blake, Stahl, Martinook, Ehlers. I don't know if Ghost is going to be back, leaning towards no there. We'll see. Carolina won here 19,700, 14.4% top two, 7.9% projected ownership. With Jarvis there, they have been good in a large sample, controlling the play. It doesn't matter if they go out against the top line, the second line. It's good matchups. I would just want to avoid the Dickinson line, which they probably will. The thing is, it's not a good power play matchup. Not that the Carolina Hurricanes power play has been great recently. It's been better because it was awful before, and the step up from awful is bad. But, they're excellent at 5-on-5. It's a good 5-on-5 matchup, but 19,700 against Spencer Knight and a good penalty kill seems a little bit steep for me. At that point, and we'll talk about it, Pittsburgh shooting on their boy Tristan Jarry later for $800 more. And then you have Edmonton at home against Pittsburgh, for a little bit higher. Just below them, there's Buffalo and there's Minnesota we'll talk about. There's some Florida lines. So, on paper, it's a great 5-on-5 matchup. But for that price, I want a good power play matchup, and it's just not. They do have positive leverage, so I probably keep it to 20 max for me. If you wanted to play them in single entry, I won't tell you no. They have a 3.8 total, but, in this game, I'll probably look to the second and third lines here. They're both 11,400. The Hall line is 11,500. The Stahl line's coming in with double the ownership at 8.5%. Carolina Blake and Stankoven coming in at 4.9%. That's probably where I would go. Again, they don't play a ton of minutes. But, they have been excellent. The one thing that does concern me there, they might see a fair bit of that Dickinson matchup. So if you wanted to go to Stahl, Martinook, Ehlers, I guess that's fine. But the negative leverage there is just a bit crazy. So, really, I'm leaning towards Carolina being MME, despite them having the biggest total on the night. On the flip side here, I think it's Freddie Anderson, right?
Yeah.
So, I'm not a huge fan.
I shouldn't say that. It's likely Freddie Anderson.
It's likely.
They haven't confirmed anything yet.
So, the drop-off from Bussy to Anderson is pretty severe, which is a hilarious statement to say in the year 2026. But, I'm not running out to play the Blackhawks here. But if you're going to give me a Bedard line under 15K, whether they go out against Aho, which hasn't been anything special defensively, or even, the Stahl line hasn't been what they were in the past few years. And with Ehlers there, they probably won't be as good as if Jarvis was there or Carrier. So I don't mind Chicago 1. I'm not playing them in single entry because, Carolina is the biggest favor on the board. But, it's not as awful of a matchup as it seems on paper. Yes, Slavin is back, but before he was back, their penalty kill was awful. The Blackhawks power play with Lev Shunov has been decent, so I don't mind that top line. Nazar being back with Bertuzzi and Donato gives them a playable second line. It's just 12,200, I guess, if you happen to get there as a filler, but really it's both top lines here, but I'm treating it as MME.
I feel pretty confident saying I'm not playing the Blackhawks here tonight. I was looking at the top line's numbers since Connor Bedard came back. 5 games, 43 shot attempts, 4 per 60 minutes, 76 against. That's Chicago 2 years ago stuff. Now, obviously, it's just been 5 games, but this is what they're bringing into Carolina, who has largely been just pretty much a buzzsaw this year. And, Jacob Slavin coming back does make a difference for the Hurricanes. He's only played 10 games this year. In those 10 games, Carolina hasn't given up a power play goal against yet. Remember, this is a team who's had a fairly bad penalty. I shouldn't say bad, average or worse penalty kill, which is bad for Carolina. When he was out, since he's been back, it's a completely different story. Honestly, I think it's the Dickinson line, if anything, from Chicago. Like, use them as a filler for Vegas or Edmonton or something like that. But I'm not playing the Blackhawks. The Carolina side, the top line is intriguing to me, but your point about the power play matchup is what's important here. It's like Chicago this season by goals against per minute on the penalty kill, top 3 in the league. Over the last 5 weeks, top 5. Like, they have a legitimately great penalty kill. Carolina's power play has been better with Nikishin running it. So that is a bonus. If this was a spot where Carolina at 19,700 was like 1 to 2% ownership, like if they were in that Vegas range for super low ownership, that's when I'd really be considering them. But 7-8% on an 8-game slate, that I don't feel like that's big savings. I mean, listen, that top line over their last 25 games, 3.6 expected goals, 76 shot attempts per 60. Jarvis in the 8 games since he came back is averaging over 3 shots per game. Like, they are very, very much in play here. But I think I kind of like the depth here. I know they're coming in with a ton of ownership, but that Stahl, Martinook, Ehlers line is basically their second line now. This isn't a spot where the power play correlation for Blake Hall and Stankoven really means a whole lot to me. For me, I just want what I think would be the better line. That Stahl line, not a huge sample together yet, but 78 shot attempts, 5.2 expected goals in just about 50 minutes together, playing 15 to 17 minutes. I think it's the Stahl line that I would play. I think the second and third lines from Carolina are my target here tonight. I'm perfect. Like, somebody wants to go and play Carolina 1. Like, listen, they've been really, really good at 5-on-5. This is a great 5-on-5 matchup. I just think, like your point about the power play, I think is the important one here. This is a very bad power play matchup for Carolina. So I'm not super concerned about the power play guys. I just want the line. Like, if that Stahl line gets 1 correlated goal, you're fine. If they get 2, you're absolutely rolling. So I think for me, it's the Jordan Stahl line I like from the Carolina side. In general, whether it's Chicago or Carolina, it's the depth. This is one of the games where I'm looking at the depth and not the top lines.
Buffalo Sabres with a 3.1 total heading into Montreal. The Canadiens have a 3.4. Montreal going Suzuki, Caulfield, Doc, Kapanen, Slavkovsky, Demidov. Buffalo going Thompson, Doan, Tuck, McLeod, Zucker, Quinn. I mentioned the third line because they were nitrous last game. Ostlund, Benson, Consta, Hellenis. Not playing them, I don't think, but just wanted to say Consta. On the Buffalo side, this is an interesting matchup because, they're $19,600, $100 cheaper than Carolina 1, 12.3% top 2, 5.9% projected ownership. And where this was a bad power play matchup for Carolina, it's a good power play matchup for Buffalo, and you get Thompson and Doan on the top power play, arguably the 2 most important players. I guess you could argue Zucker is a very important part of the power play, but not the best DFS player for the power play. So it would be that top line for me. They have been good in a 90-plus minutes sample. Montreal has been doing that thing where, they send out Suzuki a fair bit, but they'll also send out the Danault line. With Kirby Doc there, I would imagine they're going to be very good defensively. But it's just such a good power play matchup because Montreal takes a lot of penalties. It's a situation if you wanted to make it cheaper, you could leave off Tuck and put in Zucker for $1,600 less and make it $18K. But the thing is, like, Tuck penalty kills. He plays heavy minutes. He blocks shots. So it's just like at that point, I'd probably just leave Thompson, Doan, and Tuck. If you wanted to go to Buffalo too, I think that's fine. They've been excellent together in 140 minutes. So, they might see some Suzuki, but They might also see some Kapanen, Slafkovsky, Demidov. I think when push comes to shove, it would be the top line for me just because Thompson and Doan are their best players. So that's where I would go. On the Montreal side here, like, Buffalo isn't a great defensive team. I still need to see how Kirby Dach is going to indoctrinate with Suzuki and Caulfield because they have that unique play style. I don't mind it because they're 15,600. You know what I mean? It's not like they're 18 and change. They are getting a lot of ownership, though. Caulfield, Suzuki, Dach, 15,600, 8.7% top two, 15.2% projected ownership. That's pretty heavy negative leverage on an 8-game slate. What you could do is make it a little bit more of an expensive stack, adding Demidov or Slafkovsky because, the Sabres penalty kill isn't great. You get a lower owned trio. The Montreal power play has been very good. So, I probably do the top line and make it more power play. If you wanted to go to that second line, I think it's fine. Like the bottom six of Buffalo is hilariously bad. So they aren't creating a ton, but they are scoring. So I don't mind that second line. But if I'm going to do anything with the power play, I'll go to the top line, leave off Dach, and add in one of the other power play guys.
Yeah. For me, I think in this particular matchup, it's probably Montreal 2. I would go to Slafkovsky, Demidov, Kapanen, 14,200. The reason for that, one, they were struggling to create earlier when they first got put together back in earlier mid-November, whatever it was. But their last 20 games, they're at 3 expected goals per 60 minutes. They've actually been able to create pretty well. Even Oliver Kapanen without top power play time, over 2 shots per game or around 2 shots per game. So he's still pretty involved offensively. I imagine they're going to see a fair bit of that Quinn line, and that Quinn, holy hell, they're bad defensively. That's one of the big Achilles heels for the Sabres, is the middle six is pretty poor defensively. So it's a really good matchup for that Montreal second line. And honestly, the Sabres do actually have a pretty good penalty kill. Over the course of the season, Buffalo is third by goals against per minute on the PK. Only Colorado and Chicago have been better. It's been on a little bit of a slide, but they're still top 10 over the last 5 weeks. They're still a pretty good PK. Montreal's power play is good enough where they can go 1 for 3 or 1 for 4, but Buffalo doesn't take a ton of penalties either. Over the last 5 weeks, 2.4 times shorthanded per game. It's the 4th lowest rate in the league. Over the course of the season, the 8th fewest times shorthanded per game. So I don't know. I think I'm more interested in the even strength Montreal lines, where I don't really think, I kind of agree that I don't really think Dach fits in super well on the top line, at least offensively. I think I would rather just go with more of what's more of a known quantity, and that's Montreal 2. So I like Montreal 2 here in this game. Montreal 1 is fine, but like you said, there's a ton of ownership coming in on them. And I think Montreal 2 at 14,200, priced more closer to a filler than a mid-price stack. So I like Montreal 2 here. On the Buffalo side, this is a really good power play matchup for them. Montreal 3.3 times shorthanded per game over the last 5 weeks. It's the 6th highest rate in the league over the course of the season. They're taking the 4th most penalties. Buffalo's power play is really, really good with that current setup. The top line is currently constructed 3 expected goals, 61 shot attempts per 60 minutes. Alex Tuch kind of reminds me of a diet Brandon Hagel, where I think Hagel's could be a 90-point guy. Tuch is more like a 70-point guy, but they both do it without power play time. That's why I kind of would probably leave Tuch in. I think you're fine if you want to go and save a little bit of money. Drop from Tuch down to Zucker, you save yourself $1,600. that line now is under 18K. It's a lot more manageable. But I think I agree that it is Buffalo 1 where I would go in this game. Buffalo 2 is kind of interesting in the sense that Montreal's middle six is not good defensively. In fact, after the top line, I don't think there are really any defensive concerns, whether it's the Kapanen line, whether it's the Danault line. I mean, it's not that I think Danault is bad defensively. I think playing with Josh Anderson makes anybody bad defensively. And then the fourth line is certainly not good defensively. So I think like Buffalo 2 is in a pretty good 5-on-5 matchup. I think they're fine as a filler at 11,800. Like if you want to avoid the more chalky like Carolina or Columbus lines or whatever, I think Buffalo 2 is perfectly fine. But for me, it's Montreal 1, Montreal 2, and Buffalo 1 out of this game.
Ottawa Senators with a 3.2 total heading into Nashville. Great city, atrocious roster. The Predators have a 3.2 total as well. Ottawa going Stützle, Batherson, Zetterlund, Cousins, Tkachuk, Grieg, Pinto, Giroux, Amadio. Nashville going O'Reilly, Forsberg, Evangelista, Halla, Bunting, Stamkos, Svechkov, Wood, Marchessault. Nashville's top line coming in right at their top two of 7.4 with 7.3% projected ownership. They've been good at 5-on-5. And it's a very good power play matchup. Ottawa's penalty kill is atrocious. It's not that like Nashville's power play is some world beater, but holy moly is Ottawa's penalty kill bad. So I honestly don't mind Nashville 1 here. It kind of sucks that they were optimal last slate. So it feels kind of chasey, but in 232 minutes, 3.2 expected goals for, 4.1 actual, 74 shot attempts per 60. Like they're controlling the play. I wonder if they're going to go out against Stützle or Cousins, because if they go out against Stützle, they have not been great at 5-on-5. Realistically, like Ottawa's a pretty decent 5-on-5 team. That line, just in a small sample, hasn't for whatever reason. But, it's a good power play matchup. I don't mind them at 16,700. I don't know if I'm going to play them, but it's more playable tonight for me at 7% than the other night when they're coming in with like 612% negative leverage. So I don't mind the top line there. I guess the second line is fine. The problem is they'll probably run into that Pinto matchup, which is not ideal. Like a one-off Stamkos is fine, a one-off Bunting, just because he shoots the puck a bunch. But it would be Nashville 1 for me. On the flip side, it's Cousins, Tkachuk, Grieg. Like, I know we keep talking about how Stützle isn't great without Tkachuk. This line has been decent offensively with Batherson and Zetterlund there. It's just like, I still want Brady Tkachuk. I'm not stacking the Sens without Brady Tkachuk. So if you wanted to turn it into a power play stack, you could. But they have in their 3 games together, they have been very good at 5-on-5. Once you get past the O'Reilly line, Nashville isn't anything special defensively. So for me, it would be Cousins, Tkachuk, Grieg, and Nashville 1.
So I'm going to go start on the Ottawa side. Ottawa's last 5 games, 2 went to overtime. 1 was a 2-1 win against Vancouver. 1 was their recent 4-1 win, but that was a 2-1 game with 15 minutes left in the third period and a 3-1 game until an empty netter. Over those last 5 games, Tim Stützle, 19 minutes, 19 seconds a game. No other forward is over 18 minutes. There are 2 forwards between 17 and 18 minutes. There's Shane Pinto and Ridley Grieg. The number 4 forward by ice time is Claude Giroux. Drake Batherson, Brady Tkachuk, and Dylan Cousins are all skating under 16 minutes a game. That's not a lot of ice time. And sometimes you see that, like we saw that like a few weeks ago with Tampa Bay when they're winning, game after game by 3 and 4 goals. Like I said, that hasn't been the case for Ottawa. 2 overtime games, a 1-goal game, and a 4th game where it was 2-1 with 15 minutes left. They're rolling. I don't want to say rolling, but they're very evenly spreading out the ice time. That's a concern for me. And that's why, like, I don't really like Ottawa stacks here. I mean, one, Nashville's had a good penalty kill this year. Top 10 by goals against per minute this season. Nashville doesn't take a ton of penalties. Sixth fewest rate of penalties in the league over the last 5 weeks. Better than around league average over the course of the season. Like, Ottawa may not get a ton of power play opportunities. Nashville penalty kill has generally been good this year, and they're really spreading out the ice time amongst the Ottawa skaters, even in close games, which is a pretty big concern for me for DFS. So, like, if you want a one-off Stützle because he gets 19 to 20 minutes, or one-off Tkachuk because, you know, he's one of the few guys in the NHL that can hit the shot bonus in 15, 16 minutes of ice time, like, okay. Full stacking anything from Ottawa is just a pass for me. I'm not stacking anything from the Nashville depth. So for me, like, process of elimination, it's Nashville 1 of Forsberg, O'Reilly, Evangelista. Since they got reunited, 70 shot attempts, 3 expected goals, 4 per 60 minutes. They're skating, you know, Evangelista and Forsberg, 18 to 19 minutes. O'Reilly, 20 plus. Forsberg, almost a point per game over his last 20 games. Obviously, O'Reilly's been on a big hot streak. The Ottawa penalty kill, as you mentioned, is terrible. And the Ottawa takes a ton of penalties, 3.5 times shorthanded per game. Over the last 5 weeks, it's tied for the 4th most in the league. And it's the 2nd most on the slate here tonight. Only Boston is taking more. So this is a pretty, 3rd most. Boston and Florida are ahead of them. So this is a pretty good power play matchup for Nashville. I'm not sold on James Reimer being the savior for Ottawa in net. For me, it's Nashville 1. I think if you want to play a line that's going to be a lot less owned than Dallas or Montreal or something like that, I think Nashville 1 is one of the pivots. It's the only line that I really have interest in this game.
Fair enough. Florida Panthers with a 3 total. Heading into Winnipeg, the Jets also have a 3 total. Florida going Bennett, Verhaeghe, Tkachuk, Lundell, Luostarinen, Reinhart, Rodriguez, Samoskevich, Greer. Marchand skated with the extras today, so probably still out. Jets going Scheifele, Connor, Iafallo, Taze, Perfetti, Velarde, blah, 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 blah. This is kind of a weird matchup for Florida, right? Because in Winnipeg, they've been sending out the Taze line against Top Comp. They haven't been great.
I mean, I think you can say that about every Winnipeg line.
Yeah, it's like they're all shit. Even the Lowry line's been awful defensively. The one thing that, like, gives me pause about just straight up uncorking Bennett, Verhaeghe, Tkachuk is they're going to see that Morrissey pairing, and they're 19,200. We just talked about Buffalo. Carolina's also in that range. There's a couple others. They are fully correlated, but they are going against Connor Hellebuck. You know, this is Kachuk's, 2nd or 3rd game back. Even last year when he was healthy-ish, he was playing like 16, 17 minutes. Last year, for some reason, his on the power play, his shot attempts were from like way outside on the net, not net front. I guess they're fine just because the Taze line just really, or the shot, it doesn't even matter. They're all bad. Isn't great. I don't mind them in MME. I just, 8-game slate on the road, Connor Hellebuck, Morrissey pairing, it's just kind of holding me back a little bit. I don't really want to play the Luostarinen and Lundell Reinhart line. They have a large sample of being mid. So, I don't want to play a second line that's just mid with no correlation at all. They get minutes. That's nice. But so does Mikey Anderson. I guess Rodriguez, Samoskevich, 2-man is also nice if you're trying to power play stack something expensive. They're only 6,800 for the two of them. They've played almost 300 minutes together, 3.1 expected goals for per 60, controlling the play. So I don't mind them. My favorite line on the Florida side is that Bennett line. It's just like there are some red flags for me, and I'd probably keep it to 20 max. On the flip side, these lines just fucking drive me crazy. They're all bad. Florida does take a lot of penalties. They have a good penalty kill, though, and they're better goalies in net. Daniil Tarasov, he has been better than the Bob this season. So, like, there isn't a ton of ownership on the Jets. Their top line's 18,200. But they're not super intriguing to me. If it was Velarde there, maybe there would be something, but they have a 7.5% top 2, 3% ownership. I just don't want to play them. I guess, Tays, Velarde, Perfidi as a filler at 2.8%, but like I'm not running out to play the Jets tonight either.
Yeah, I think if I play Winnipeg, it's some sort of power play stack with the top line. Take out Iafallo, put in either Taves or Velarde. Like you said, Florida does take a ton of penalties, 3.6 times shorthanded per game. Over the last 5 weeks, second only to Boston. Over the course of the season, second most time shorthanded per game, again, only next to Boston. The one thing that kind of makes me want to play the Jets is that the power play has been legitimately very good with Jonathan Taves there. I think it's only been like 25 minutes, so small sample and all that, but 12.6 expected goals, 12.2 actual goals per 60 with Taves on the top power play unit. That's about where they were last year. And that does make a big difference for my outlook of them. And, Taves is only 3,400. It's the same price as Iafallo, so you can just straight swap them. Matt Tkachuk back, that's good offensively for the Panthers, but he's not a good defensive player. Like, this isn't Alexander Barkov coming back or something like that. So, I think I don't really care which matchup line they get matched against. So it's Winnipeg 1, but I would take out Iafallo, put in one at Taves or Velarde. I think the matchup is fine for them, and nobody seems to want to be playing them. I wish it was Bobrovsky starting because that guy's been terrible this year. But you don't always get what you want. Sometimes you get what you need.
Too soon.
Okay. So yeah, I would probably take out Iafallo and put in one of Taves or Velarde. I don't mind Winnipeg 1 here just because of Florida's penchant for taking penalties and the fact that Winnipeg's power play has been so much better. On the Florida side, it's kind of the same thing, only without all of the penalties, right? Like Bennett, Tkachuk, Verhaeghe, 19,200, 5% ownership. Like, I think they're the pivot away from like a chalkier Minnesota, or if you don't want to play Carolina, like I think this is the pivot. Like, they were good together last year, 235 minutes, 3 expected goals, 3.1 actual goals. They're probably going to play 19 to 21 minutes. Like, I think Tkachuk played over 20 minutes in that game that he came back. Winnipeg's penalty kill is good, especially with Hellebuck, but it's not super elite. Florida's drawing a ton of power plays, 4 per game over the last 5 weeks, 3.7 per game over the course of the season. With our boy, obviously there isn't a real big sample here, but our boy Uvis running things instead of Ekblad, certainly. I mean, it has to be an upgrade just because of how bad things were with Ekblad running it. I really don't mind Florida, that Tkachuk, Verhaeghe, Bennett line. I think I prefer to go to the Winnipeg side, but it's those two lines I prefer in this game. And I think this is one of those games where I don't mind playing the expensive guys on either side.
Before we move on, we have a $5 super chat from the Hypno Toad. Thank you, Toad. Even though you are not talking about me, how dare you? My ego needs sustenance. But elite shirt choice by Cliffy today. Yes, I know you guys are both Simpsons fans. I've seen 1 episode of The Simpsons in my whole life because my parents, who are downstairs with my little fella, deprived me. But thank you for the super chat. Good luck.
I mean, yeah, thanks, Toad. Certainly appreciate the support. Thank you for the super chat. Yes, big Simpsons fan. Obviously, like a lot of people, I haven't watched much in the last 25 years. Those first 8 seasons still hold up so well, though.
Maybe I'll have to. No, my list is way too long. Shit, I need to catch up on. It's just never ending. Let's talk about the Penguins. Pittsburgh Penguins, 2.8 total. Heading into Edmonton, the Oil, 3.7 total. Let's get to this game here. Pittsburgh going Crosby, Raquel, Rust, Novak, Malkin, Shinnikov, Brazeau, Kindle, Mantha, Uncle Stewie in net. Bunch of narrative. I mean, they've played already with both these guys, but, it's Stewie and Jari here tonight. Edmonton going McDavid, Hyman, Nugent Hopkins, Roslovic, Savoie, Howard, Lazar, Mangiapane, Janmark. Is Nugent Hopkins? Oh, no, they're going to go 11-7, right? Probably. I don't know what the hell I'm looking at here.
Yeah, I think it's 11-7 tonight.
Oh, yeah. I'm an idiot. Okay, yes. That top line for Edmonton, 22,700, 30.4% top two, 14.7% projected ownership. It's like the problem here is for me, it's like, is it a great power play spot? I'm not convinced. And Draisaitl's out. Now, this top line, this iteration of the top line has been excellent, and the Crosby line has been not good defensively for years. So, 22,700. Listen, we've seen them way more expensive before. McDavid was, $700 more at the other slate. They're fine for sure. Like, they're probably the best line on the night. Obviously, they have a 30% top two with the highest positive leverage. Like, I'm good with them. If you're talking pure power play, like, I'd rather play Vegas. But if you couple in the 5-on-5 matchup, I'm completely fine with Edmonton 1 here. If Draisaitl was in, it'd be more of like, I don't care how decent the penalty kill has been for Pittsburgh. Like, they can just run them over. So, Hyman's expensive. 22,700 is a bit pricey. Not super thrilled about it on an 8-game slate. Obviously, if you play them, and you want to play them, you get a comfortable lineup with them. You play them. It's kind of the same thing I'm running into with Vegas. It's just like for a 3-man stack, almost 23K. I don't know. Like, obviously, it's McDavid. He can absolutely nuke a slate in the first period, so they're fine. I just think there's lines under 20K here tonight that, I can fit with other lines where I don't have to sacrifice the rest of my lineup that I like just as much. So I have no issue with them. Obviously, they have a 3.7 total. They're shooting on Stewie Skinner. Just, Draisaitl's out. It's not the best power play matchup to begin with. So, you do what you want to do there. On the Pittsburgh side, I don't know, man, 20,500. I have no idea if there was no injuries last night. I don't know if Letang's going to be back. I honestly don't have a clue. There's just no one to move the puck. Now it is Edmonton, and it is Tristan Jarry. I mean, Tristan Jarry has been their best goalie this season in, like, the 3 games he's played for him. So, again, I'd probably just go to the third line, especially without Draisaitl. Like, once you get past McDavid, it's just the who's who of who. Like, I just don't know these players. So, like, Kindle Mantha, Kindle Brazeau. If you want a full stack, if you're doing like a Vegas 1 3-man with like Dorofeyev for 23K, Kindle Brazeau, Mantha are 9,900. Like, that's something I would play. I don't think I want to pay 20,500 for a top line without a puck moving defenseman. So, obviously, I think when push comes to shove, Edmonton 1 is the best player on the board here tonight. I just don't want to spend the money, and I'm probably looking at Pittsburgh depth.
Yeah, I don't think I'm playing either top line here tonight. Yeah. Pittsburgh has had a very good penalty kill this year. Top 8 in the league by goals against per minute over the last 5 weeks. Top 5 over the course of the season. Like, however good Edmonton's power play is or is not with Leon Draisaitl, you have to figure over the long term it'd be quite a bit worse if Leon Draisaitl was replaced by Vasily Podkolzin night in and night out. So this is all of a sudden, I don't think this is a good power play matchup for Edmonton. 22,000. The one reason why I would play them is because they're probably going to get a ton of ice time, right? Like the other night, I think all three guys played between 23 and 25 minutes. Like it's pretty reasonable to think like all three guys are going to be around 24 minutes or higher here tonight. Like that is why you would probably play them. But I don't think they get there on the power play. And at 22,700, you need 3 goals from them. So they need 2 at 5-on-5, 1 with the empty net. Like, yeah, that can happen. I feel like you're threading a pretty thin needle there. I'm out on Edmonton. I'm definitely not playing the depth. So it's the Pittsburgh side. And then you get to Pittsburgh, 20,500. I'd rather just go play Vegas. I'd rather play Carolina. I'm out on the top line. For me, it's the second line for the Penguins. Like Chinnikov and Malkin, up to 85 minutes together, 60 shot attempts, 2.8 expected goals, 4 per 60. Malkin, 8 points in 8 games since returning. He's averaging over 2.5 shots per game. I don't know if anybody saw that shot by Chinnikov last night, but holy hell, that guy can absolutely rip the puck. They're fairly cheap. That Pittsburgh second line is 11,200 with Tommy Novak there. If you want just 2-man like Novak, Chinnikov or something like that, for a cheap 2-man to put with like Vegas or something like that, I think that's fine. I think the third line for Pittsburgh is also in play. Brazeau, Kindle, like you said, Mantha, Kindle, something like that. I think that's perfectly fine. This is not a game where I'm going after the top line guys. It's just not a matchup for it. In either way, I'd rather play Vegas. So for me, this is about the depth guys. Edmonton doesn't have any, so it's Pittsburgh 2 or Pittsburgh 3.
Yeah, concur. Congrats to us on Edmonton ending the slate 3 minutes into their game. But Detroit Red Wings with a 2.8 total heading into Minnesota. The Mild have a 3.3. Red Wings, they played last night, right? Yeah, we were just talking about it. I'm a moron. They'll probably be running back Larkin, Raymond, the Friendly Ghost, Kopp, DeBrincat, Kane. Okay, so Eriksson, Ek, and Johansson are probably back here tonight. Cliffy and I were kind of going over what they're probably going to do, and our best guess was Urov, Kaprizov, Zuccarello, Eriksson, Ek, Johansson, Tarasenko, and then Hartman down on the third line. That makes the Minnesota top line 17,900 instead of 19,400 with Hartman. It isn't fully correlated anymore, but with Eriksson Ek back, it wouldn't have been fully correlated with Hartman anyway, I don't think. So, taking the discount with Urov, if it is him, would be nice. The problem is it's the last locking game of the slate. There's nowhere to swap to. So that's annoying. I guess what you could do is build with Eriksson Ek because he's only $500 more than Hartman. And you can just react and upgrade a defenseman if you wanted to. That's probably what I would do. And at worst, like Eriksson Ek, Kaprizov, Zuccarello will be fully correlated. If Eriksson Ek is out, just go down to Hartman because Hartman would be on power play 1 if Eriksson Ek is out. But it seems like they'll both be back in. It's always the last game on the slate that has the most shenanigans. That's probably what I would do. I'd have like a punt defenseman in the last game, build with Eriksson Ek. That makes the top line 19,900. If it's Urov, you could leave Eriksson Ek for power play. If Eriksson Ek's out, you can go to Hartman. You have swaps. But, as it is, it would be the top line. You just don't know if it's going to be Urov. But, you can react to the news if you leave yourself some salary. On the Detroit side, back-to-back on the road, it is Gus and net for Minnesota. He actually has been much better than Jesper Wallstedt at the moment, but their penalty kill is still atrocious. It would be a power play stack for me. I'd probably go Larkin, Raymond, and then either add in JVR or DeBrincat, depending on your price tolerance. I'd probably go JVR just because, DeBrincat back-to-back on the road at 7,200. He really needs a multi-point game and a bonus. So it would be Larkin, Raymond, JVR for me. I hate that this is the last game. Like if there was like 1 or 2 locking after that, like you probably would get some low-owned Minnesota in a high ownership game. It's just like you're just going to have to build more expensive and hope you get a low-owned combo.
Yeah, I think you kind of nailed it. Is that you have to build with Eriksson Ek. I think that's the reason why you would play Minnesota tonight, is that he's probably going to be back. So you do, like you said, you do like Eriksson Ek, Kaprizov, Zuccarello. And then if Hartman's still on the top line and you want to play Hartman, you could swap down to Hartman, or, there's 2,000 on DK between Eriksson Ek and Urov, and it's 2,100 between Brock Faber and Jared Spurgeon. So if you build with Eriksson Ek and Spurgeon, make sure you have the extra $100. At warm-ups, you can swap Eriksson Ek down to Urov and then Spurgeon up to Brock Faber. Like, there are ways to get around that. It's not John Gibson going for, I'm going to assume it's not going to be John Gibson going for Detroit here tonight. It is going to be Cam Talbot. Talbot he's been not considerably worse. Like, this isn't Jet Greaves, Elvis Merzlikins territory, but he has been worse this season than Gibson. Gibson's been pretty good over the last couple of years, actually. That the Minnesota top guys are going to get a ton of ice time. I think it's kind of like that Minnesota or that Edmonton issue, if you want to call it, is like they're going to get a lot of ice time. So with a lot of ownership, and the worst goalie in net, you really do have to consider them. Like I said, I would probably build with Eriksson Ek, Kaprizov, Zuccarello, and Spurgeon, and then you can make just about any swap that you need from there, whether it's, like Eriksson Ek down to Urov and then Spurgeon up to Faber, or just Eriksson Ek down to Hartman and leave everything else the same. I think that's the way that I would build. I'm not super keen on doing that on the very last game of the slate. It just seems like ripe for headaches. So, one-off Kaprizov, I think, is perfectly fine here. If you want to put in like a Kaprizov, Eriksson Ek 2-man and then swap down to Hartman if you need to, or something like that, I think that's fine. I don't mind Minnesota here tonight, but if you're building with Eriksson Ek, Kaprizov, and Zuccarello, all of a sudden you're pushing 20K. At that point, I'd rather just go play Vegas. So like I said, I would build with Eriksson Ek, Kaprizov, Zuccarello, Spurgeon, and then adjust to the news. Even without the swaps in general, I just prefer Vegas here tonight. So I think I'd rather just go play Vegas instead. I think Winnipeg very much in play as well. So I'm not super in on Minnesota. On the Detroit side, it's probably that second line. I don't think they see a lot of the top pair from the Wild, and with Brodin still out, not really worried about any of the second and third pair matchups. Their last 10 games for that second line, 3 expected goals, 4 per 60. Now, it is a pretty good power play matchup. If you want to go the Brinkat, I think you can make it a fairly cheap stack. And you can go the Brinkat, Van Riemsdyk, Kopp or something like that. You get a couple guys from the top power play unit. That stack is only 15,500. If you want to do Kopp to Brinkat Raymond, I think that's perfectly fine. I don't mind Detroit 2 here because it's pretty good middle six matchups for him. It's a really good power play matchup. I'm not particularly fond of that Detroit top line. I think they're just kind of riding a little bit of a hot streak. Marco Kasper's just not been good this year. And I don't even think Larkin and Raymond are good enough to carry him. So I think for me, it's Detroit 2, what I like best in this game. I really don't like all these shenanigans that we're going to have to pull with the Wild.
Hey, Farva, what's that restaurant you like with the pictures on the wall and the mozzarella sticks? Anyway, let's talk about defensemen. 6K and up, we have, Werenski at 8,700 and Quinn Hughes at 7,600. Then the 6K guys are Evan Bouchard, Sanderson, Rasmus Dahlin, Roman Josi, Miro Heiskanen, Moritz Seider. Obviously, Zach Werenski in a class of his own by price. And, I would assume he leads the way for projection. I think he's fine. I'm not running out to – he's not the first guy I put in my lineup. Again, if I have the room for him, I'd play him. Quinn Hughes just doesn't leave the ice. So, at 7,600, I think that's fine. I think once you get past Werenski, though, I think, Bouchard is interesting, but it's not a great power play matchup. So I'm not super excited about him. I think the guy I would go to after Werenski would probably be Rasmus Dahlin at 6,600. Very good power play matchup. I also think Roman Yossi's in a decent spot here. Yossi and Sanderson, I think, are fine. I'd probably go Werenski 1. Quinn Hughes 2, just because he plays like half the game. Bouchard's interesting. If it was a better power play spot, I'd be more interested. But I do like Rasmus Dahlin here.
Yeah, the highest projection is Zach Werenski. I don't think that'll surprise anybody. But the best point per dollar of the 6K and above guys goes to Evan Bouchard. I don't know. I don't think it's a very good power play matchup for Bouchard. I'm not super keen on him. If you have the salary to pay up for Werenski, I think that's fine. So Bouchard 1, just because of the projected point per dollar. But like I said, I don't think I'll be playing him here tonight. Werenski 2, Dahlin 3 for me. And then Quinn Hughes, I think, is interesting just because he does get so much ice time. And I don't mind the Wild here tonight. I just hate how it's the last game to lock, and we have no idea. We don't really know who's going to be playing tonight. I mean, even if Eriksson Ek and Johansson warm up, they could just leave warm-ups 10 minutes in, and all of a sudden everything just gets absolutely blown up. So I think just playing Quinn Hughes and going about your business is perfectly fine here. The mid-price range, there's not really a lot that I really like there. Thomas Harley's up to 5K. It's not a bad matchup against Columbus, but Thomas Harley sucked ass this year. So paying 5K for a guy that's legitimately playing terrible just is not something I typically do. Noah Dobson isn't that far behind him. I guess so. Like Jake Wallman at 4,100, I think makes a lot of sense. He puts up really good peripherals. He's starting to play 19 to 20 minutes a game. But there's not a lot in that price range I really have interest in. For me, it's a stars or scrubs night. For the cheap guys, Matthias Ekholm has the highest projection of any defenseman under 4K by a wide margin. Well over a half point higher than the next closest, who's Keandre Miller, and then Sean Walker after him. So the Carolina guys firmly in play here tonight. Ivan Provorov, 3,900. Again, with no Matejchuk, he's going to have to get a fair bit of ice time. I think he's perfectly fine. Mike Matheson, same thing at 3,700. Matthias Samuelsson, 3,500 on the other side of that game. I think he's very playable for Buffalo here tonight. So Ekholm, Miller, or Sean Walker, I would lean Miller. Provorov, Matheson. For the super cheap guys, Ryan Shea was running the Pittsburgh power play without Letang and Carlson. Nobody got a ton of ice time. I think they had like 4 guys between like 21 and 23 minutes, and then a couple guys in the teens. So
mid-price though.
Yeah, I mean, I think Ryan Shea for me would probably be one of the cheap guys, like Jake Middleton for Minnesota, getting decent ice time. He's the fixture on the ice whenever Quinn Hughes decides he needs a water break. Brady Shea projecting very well for under 3K as well, so I'll mention Brady Shea.
Let's talk about goalies. Well, we'll see you tomorrow. Fuck, hate goalies, but top range, bag of ass as usual. I guess in the top range, it would be Philip Gustafsson. For me, I don't want to play the Carolina starter, Jari. Montembeau at 8,200 doesn't interest me. Like Casey DeSmith, I guess, is fine, but, with their injuries, if he was cheaper, maybe. After that, maybe UC Saros at 79. I don't mind Akira Schmid at 7,800 against Boston. Hellebuck, I guess, is fine at 7,800. There just isn't guys that I want to play. I think Tarasov at 7,600 is fine. He's been their better goalie. Winnipeg just isn't, great 5-on-5. They do take a lot of penalties though, so that's the issue. Jack Greaves is interesting at 7,400 just because Rantanen's out. Those lines haven't been great. But at that point, I'm just going to go play Spencer Knight at 7K against Carolina because, he's going to see a ton of volume. He's coming off a shutout. But really, it's probably like, I don't know, man. Like Philip Gustafsson, Connor Hellebuck, Tarasov, and Spencer Knight for me, I guess. But like, if you like guys, just go play him.
Yeah. Freddie Anderson has the highest projection.
Have fun with that.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I'm not playing Freddie Anderson. Tristan Jarry's second.
Have fun with that.
Philip Gustafsson's third. I think I agree with you. That's where I would go at home against Detroit. Road back-to-back. So including a pretty tough overtime game last night. It feels like a good spot for Minnesota. So I like Gustafsson. Casey DeSmith on the road against Columbus. Like, I don't like playing expensive goalies on the road, but he's been pretty good this year. He might actually see volume here tonight. It's not like Dallas is really great at limiting shots. I think UC Saros at 7,900 is fine against Ottawa. Like if Ottawa doesn't power play merchant themselves to 4 goals, like I think Saros could have a decent night. For the cheaper goalies, like, man, there's just really not a whole lot here. Like I guess Tarasov on the road against Winnipeg, like as long as Winnipeg's they're kind of like that Ottawa issue. Like as long as Ottawa doesn't power play merchant, as long as Winnipeg doesn't power play merchant their way to a big game, I think Tarasov could be fine. But for me, I think I agree on Spencer Knight at 7K. It's one of those, like, I mean, maybe he gets blown up for like 4 goals on 11 shots and is pulled before the end of the first period. Or maybe he does what Lucas Dostal did last night in Colorado. So I think for me, Spencer Knight would be the cheap goalie. Jack Greaves, I think, is in play just because I'm not super concerned about Dallas's power play without Rantanen and with the limited number of power play opportunities they're getting, but they don't put up big shot volume. So I worry they pull one of those like 3 goals on 19 shots type things. You know what I mean? I think Greaves is fine. So I guess Greaves and Knight for the cheaper goalies, and then Gustafsson, DeSmith, or Saros for the expensive ones.
We are probable for tomorrow. We'll keep you updated. But yeah, who you liking for your hat trick pick?
You know what? Screw it. Jonathan Taves.
Oh my God. All right, I'll keep that same energy. Going Michael Bunting.
I don't even know if they're going to get 3 shots on goal between them tonight, but let's see what happens.
That's par for the course for my hat trick pick. So, we should be back tomorrow. If we aren't, we'll put out a message in Discord and Twitter, X, Blue Sky, whatever we want to call it nowadays. But we will for sure be back Saturday. Good luck, everybody, tonight. We'll see you in the Discord. Trade everybody, Chris Jury.
Good luck tonight, everyone.